What Rockstar did with Max Payne 3, bringing James as the whole character, I was going like, we didn't even stop to consider that James could do the whole thing.
With Alan Wake, was the base of the story coming from your childhood?
When I started working on the story of Alan Wake, I just ended up stealing them from that screenplay. We obviously had to take control, but I was trying to make a musical sequence for that also. But it got scoped out. And I was like, next time, next game.
Before we jump into this episode, I gotta bring back the comment of the day. I haven't done these in a while. This comment comes from Spotify by the person named Will. What an amazing episode. I love the voice actor. He did an incredible job as Harry. This is a comment from the episode where I talked to Harry Osborn's actor, Graham Phillips, who worked in Marvel Spider-Man 2. It was amazing to talk to him last year. And did you know that Graham Phillips and Yuri Lowenthal, who by the way plays Peter Parker or Spider-Man in the Marvel Spider-Man games, actually played Ben 10 in different ages? And now, without any further ado, let's just jump into my conversation, and the longest one, with Sam Lake. I am so honored and privileged to have the legend himself, Sam Lake, and Behind the Voice podcast. Thank you so much, Sam, for doing this. This is incredible, and I've not stopped smiling ever since this morning.
Thank you. Happy to be here and chat.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see. And first of all, I want to say congratulations on being nominated for the Best Actor in a Supporting Role in BAFTAs.
Oh my God. What an honor. Yeah, like that was totally unexpected but happy that it happened, of course.
Yes, I have been a fan of your work as Alex Casey in general. It's so cool to see that. And at the same time, Alan Wake 2 has won so many awards. So congratulations to you and the entire team as well for having all these awards won. It's really a fantastic game, and I'm so happy that it's been recognized in every aspect of the way.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, you never know. You have to fiercely believe in what you make. It's such a huge mountain of work always, and it takes such a long time.
Yeah.
But still, you know, you live in your bubble inside the production, and so it's always a nervous moment when we release a game and what will the reception be. But yeah, the reception has been overwhelmingly positive, and yeah, especially given what kind of a year it was, like so marvelous, phenomenal games coming out, so many.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 2023 was definitely a year which had incredible amount of games. I don't think so any year can top that at this point. But it's cool because 28 years ago you started working with Remedy, and first game was Death Rally that you started working on it. You studied English literature, you landed the job there, and it's been 28 years. What has it been like for you to be in this company working on so many incredible games that people have loved?
Yeah, it is. Like it's my reality, of course. So I easily forget how exceptional it is to be working in a same place for that many years. That it's not common at all. Even though I've been living that, and for me it has always made a lot of sense. I feel I loved computer games growing up, loved role-playing games, but I kind of stumbled into this work. That was not my plan. I wanted to write, for sure. I was thinking of writing novels. And then when I was asked to come in and write the texts for Death Rally, felt like a fantastic opportunity. And then how it's been through all these years is that it's always growing, the opportunities and the ambition level. So it has never gotten to the point where it feels like now we are just repeating what we have done before. It's always like feels very motivating to be working on games, because it's always like, okay, now we can do something that nobody has done before. And that has been the driving force through all these years. And who knows, like I still dream of writing a novel or novels at some point. Maybe when I retire.
Yeah, that would be amazing to have a novel written by you. I think a lot of people, especially with Alan Wake games, everybody's like, there's got to be these novels. Sam Lake has written all of this. He must write it.
Or comic books, or working on a film, or anything really like creative.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so incredible. So thank you for everything that you've done for all 28 years, because it's such a joy for me, because I got introduced, I got discovered, I discovered Remedy with Max Payne, and also I got to discovered by Poets of the Fall as well from there. So working on the Max Payne games was so insane. I never expected a game to have those things, with James being the voice, with you being the face, the noir comic book style, depressing at the same time. So looking back, looking back at those games, this is 2 games that you guys made. What is it like for you to have made those 2 games, which is right now like more than a cult classic? Everybody just knows you as Payne, and it's just been an incredible journey. People always go back to play those games.
You know, back then we were just a bunch of kids. Well, like I feel that was, you know, it was kind of the garage band era of Remedy. Just enthusiastic, very talented, but enthusiastic amateurs essentially at that point coming together and just dreaming about making video games. And I've often looked back how Max Payne as a project started and what we were estimating about the amount of work, and it was just a fraction of what it needed and ended up being. I feel that if we would have understood how challenging it's going to be and how long it's going to take, half of the people would have disappeared and never gotten into it. So there are kind of blessings in being innocent and not understanding. But yeah, like it was very energetic and very kind of like dreaming about things, and bringing different elements together. Like from my part, just believing in the idea that we can totally tell a deeper story and build a deeper character within the context of an action game, which wasn't really a thing at that point when you look at games. Oh, yeah. I mean, certainly there were ambitious storytelling happening in games, but not really in an action game genre. So that was one thing. And then looking for ways of telling that story, and loving comic books and suggesting that we could do it this way. And then Petri Järvilehto, who is one of the founders of Remedy, looking into the design, and him loving Hong Kong action movies and John Woo and all, and thinking about like, how can we make it really cinematic? How can we bring bullet time into it? And yeah.
So good. I love the fact that, because what I know, there's so many things in that game that is just insane, and in many ways I feel like it's been inspired by a lot of movies, and I think the immediate kind of inspiration I feel like is like most of inspiration, at least for bullet time, comes from Matrix in some ways, and it's just so cool to have that, and then the absolute depressing storytelling of Max Payne with such action involved and such weirdness at the same time, where missions I would never expect to have in an action game. How were those ideas even coming through? Was that all based on the movies or the books or anything that you get to watch? Like, how would all that build up?
Yeah, a lot of inspirations in movies and novels and comic books overall. I've been joking that Matrix was the most expensive marketing campaign for a video game ever. I mean, the thing is that obviously Matrix is very strongly inspired by Hong Kong action films and John Woo stuff. And at that point, it wasn't really something that was widely known by mainstream Western audiences. We were drawing from it, they were drawing from it, and Matrix came out, if I remember correctly, around a year before Max Payne or so.
True.
So we were kind of deep into it, and then it came out, and it was so cool, and really brought this bullet time idea into mainstream, and made it kind of like everybody was so excited, and then suddenly like now there is going to be a game where you get to do this yourself. Goes to show that in many of these it's just the kind of being in the right place at the right time, and that just kind of like, you know, turns something into a phenomena, and you can never know.
Anything can happen. And as I mentioned before, Poets of the Fall, I got introduced to them from Max Payne 2, and that was actually my first game that I played, and then I played Max Payne. And so with Max Payne 2, with the Poets of the Fall's Late Goodbye song playing everywhere, I started researching, and I loved the band ever since. Me and my one friend at least have played Max Payne 2 multiple times. We have heard that song multiple times. It was our favorite song for 3-4 years. And then we went on, and I've been a big fan ever since. How did you brought them in this game and so that they become now a major important part of Remedy games?
Yeah, I mean, in my teenage years, I started playing tabletop role-playing games, and there was a group of friends we were playing together, and Petri Järvilehto was one in that group. It ended up being one of the founders of Remedy, and that's how I got to Remedy. And Marko Saaristo, who is the singer and really kind of soul of Poets, was another childhood friend in that same role-playing game group. And Marko was in several different bands, and then around the time of Max Payne 2, they had just put together a new band, Poets, and we were just chatting how cool it would be to kind of like custom make a song for the game. And that's how Late Goodbye came to be.
This is so amazing.
And obviously we are still, like, all through these years really, really good friends, and it's been a wonderful collaboration with them through all these years.
Yeah, I think when they kept on releasing more and more albums, it was like Poets of the Fall can never make a bad song. And it was like every single song was just that powerful. And it is a song where I keep on looping that song over and over again. Then I realize there's more other songs that I can loop on. So I listen to all that other song and loop on for and I realize that's the only song I've been listening to for the entire day. But it's just, it's so cool to have them. And they are now, like, Old Gods of Asgard have become a band as well, which is for the games. Was that an idea that was pitched by you? Was that an idea that somebody else came up with?
Yeah, it was like, I mean, we did Late Goodbye, and that felt like a really, really successful collaboration, and brought something into the experience. And then when we were working on Alan Wake, where very much at the heart of the lore is the idea of works of art changing reality and affecting reality. It started to feel that we could have other art forms on top of Alan Wake's writing as part of it, and I really started thinking about characters of Thor and Odin Anderson as part of this setting, and out of this idea came the idea of, like, what if we would have a fictional band in our world, and how could we create songs for that fictional band? And well, I went to Marko, knowing, you know, that he's a big fan of heavy metal music, and growing up and playing games, we were often listening to, say, Metallica or something. Yeah. And so I kind of felt that the whole band would also get a lot of kicks from the idea, what if you would kind of slip into, these roles of heavy metal musicians, and we would think like, this is in the past, so it's 70s, 80s heavy metal.
Yeah.
And how about creating some songs? And then collaborated like about the story, just to make sure that the lyrics are about the story and expanding the story. And yeah, that was like they were thrilled. And that gives you kind of like, as an artist, also this kind of a liberty to maybe go into places that you would maybe censor yourself a bit when it's actually you and kind of your main thing. This allowed, wild exploration and freedom with that. So yeah, and the reception of that already with the first Alan Wake was so positive. Like the stage fight scene with Wake and Barry in the field at the stage and the song starts to play. That was kind of like, so many people afterwards were just naming that this is their favorite action game moment ever.
Yeah.
And we've been kind of like trying to top that ever since.
Oh my God. I have to say, ever since that, you have been topping every single time. I think it was great in Control. It was even better in Alan Wake, and Alan Wake had 2 versions of it, and I was blown away that we got to see so many things. We'll talk about it. It's just amazing that we get to have so many cool songs, and it's crazy. I love the fact that we get to experience all of it, and it's telling the story, and it's continuing the story, expanding the story, which is just brilliant. So I just never expected. I don't think so anyone does this except you guys, and that's what's make it special. And it's just amazing.
It's something like, music is really, really important to me, and growing up has been. I'm not really a musical person. I don't play any instruments. I can't sing, but I love music, and to me, music is a great source of inspiration. Always has been.
Yeah.
And so this idea has been growing from one game to another of how can we use music even in a bigger way? How can we bring in artists and really tailor make songs that are all about the story and about the world? And yeah, really, really happy on all of these different collaborations with poets as old gods, with Poe. Like with this road now, she's wonderful, and also everybody like through Fright Music for our chapter songs. So it's been just growing one game after another.
Wow. Wow. And with that, I do want to say, one of the growing up, it's weird to say growing up, but like it literally was for me, where I played Max Payne so long. And I was like getting back into Max Payne 2 over and over again. It would be like where if I'm not having a good time with the game, I would just jump back to Max Payne 2 and just play that game again. And I just loved James' voice so much. It was just, I think everybody would say that James' voice was just the iconic voice. And so good to see that he was Alex Casey as well in Alan Wake 2. And it's unfortunate that we lost him. So what has it been like for you to work with him over these years, with Max Payne and now with Alan Wake 2?
It was wonderful to work with him and get to know him along the way. He was brilliant. Like he has a massive role through all of this as with his voice and with his acting. Like such a big part of Max Payne he was. And I just felt that, and I do feel like this with actors in general, that when we find somebody and build this relationship and trust between us and get to know them more on what can they do and all. Like I love working with the same actors, like finding actually like specifically writing material for them, and this is what I've been doing quite a lot in our games. Yeah, James was something special. He was a gentleman. He was really dedicated actor. Huge impact on Max's character, like brought that whole film noir feel to it. And I just felt that I want to keep working with him. So he was Thomas Zane, the diver, in Alan Wake, the first game, and also already back then he was the voice of Alex Casey. Wow. You can find those couple of pages from Alan Wake's last Alex Casey novel, The Sudden Stop, and we got James to read them, which was just like fits so well into the whole thing. And then going forward, like working with him on Control was fantastic. I wrote the role of Director Trench with James in mind. The idea was that here is this older, cynical, world-weary director, and I was immediately thinking that, when I'm writing it, I'm hearing it already, James in the role. And that was fantastic overall. Like, I didn't really need James when we were working on Max Payne. It was all remote, happened in New York. Navid Konsari is a wonderful director who was directing the actors in both Max Payne games 1 and 2, and then in Alan Wake as well. This is what we had going for all the VOs, and he was in New York. And I think that like, it was only during Alan Wake that I first met James, or even after it in New York, and kind of like we started becoming friends at that point. And I was beforehand saying, when we were setting up Control, that I have something for you in this. And I was saying that to Matt as well, like with Darling in mind. Yeah. And he was excited about it and always wanted to kind of come back to collaborate. And he flew to Finland for the Control shoot, and I had the pleasure of directing him. And it was just a wonderful series of sessions. And he was just really excited and loving it. So that was brilliant. And then going to Alan Wake 2 with Casey and with a bigger role with Casey, kind of like, I feel so fortunate that we got to do it and we got through the whole project in time for him, and he was still around, and he got to see the initial positive outpouring of reactions, and he was so happy about that. So really sad about him passing, but I think he got some pleasure out of knowing that what he did made an impact.
Absolutely. And he has left such an amazing mark on the gaming industry overall. Everybody loves him and what he has done. Everybody knows his voice, knows his level of acting skills, and we are fortunate that we got to experience what he had to share in all the games. So it's wonderful that we get to see that, and I'm so happy that he got to see all the positive response for Alan Wake 2. That is wonderful. That is amazing. And he played that role of Casey so well. It was so different at the same time. Yeah. Love listening to him every single time. It just will never get old. And even now, I go back to Max Payne, just hear that monologue. I was like, that is beauty. That is great. I love that. It's so cool. But with Alan Wake, I think in one of the recent interviews, you were talking about how it was kind of linked with your childhood, where the clicker, it was an item that you would have as a kid. How was that? Was the base of the story coming from your childhood? Can you talk about what exactly was happening at the time?
Yeah. So after Max Payne, after the first game, I went to study screenwriting at Theatre Academy of Finland for a couple of years. So film and TV, which was a wonderful school. I learned a lot, and that was really the first school where I was constantly feeling like now I'm in the right place. and how it was structured is that every semester, it was 3 semesters, this course, we wrote a film screenplay by like in half a year. One of these screenplays, I just kind of like took a lot of locations and ideas and feelings from my childhood. And it's a horror movie, set in the kind of Finnish countryside by a lake.
Wow.
And there were a lot of elements. I mean, there is the clicker, the light switch that has mystical properties. There is a scary older lady, in a cabin next door, who may or may not be Baba Yaga, the witch. There are other neighbors who are these crazy drunken Swedes, Tor and Odin Anderson, and so there were a lot of ideas that I had there, and then when I started working on the story of Alan Wake, I just ended up stealing them from that screenplay into Alan Wake, and so yeah, like I was really tapping into all kinds of thoughts, obviously not one-to-one, but just inspired by kind of like childhood memories of different kinds. So, yeah.
Well, this conversation will keep on getting better and better as we move forward. But before we jump into that, have you yourself played Alan Wake 2? If you haven't, well, what are you waiting for? Alan Wake 2 is one of the best horror games out there right now, with incredible story twists and some of the best visuals I've ever seen. You can get the game right now on PC by clicking the link in the description below. And for those of you guys who have played Alan Wake 2, let me know in the comments below what is your top 3 moments. And now let's jump back to know more from Sam Lake. Alan Wake at the time was insane for me because even though it was an action game, there were horror elements in the game very much. There was no jump scares, not that I really remember that I getting jump scared, but like there was a lot of moments where it would be like, oh, I don't think so, this is an action game anymore. But so it was that horror element. Was Alan Wake supposed to be an action game, or was it supposed to be horror and then kind of turned into an action?
It was an action game. Like, I mean, we were at the time thinking of it as an action adventure. And obviously coming out of Max Payne's, that we felt was the formula we are building around, like a narrative focus, strong main character, and action, and an idea of some sort of a custom special mechanic around action. And so in Max Payne it was bullet time. In Alan Wake it was light and darkness as elements. But it took us a long while to find our way to Alan Wake as a concept. Like Petri and I were deep in concept work, and there were so many different ideas and concepts, and even some prototypes, and me writing treatments of stories of very, very different ideas. And bit by bit, these singular elements out of it, like, okay, day and night, light and darkness being a key, or small town setting, or Stephen King inspired kind of horror themed elements, like bit by bit, kind of like it led us to Alan Wake. But it was a long while, like over a year when we were just kind of concepting all kinds of ideas and abandoning them because something doesn't work, we'll think of something else. But yeah, we were thinking about it as an action adventure game. and obviously the story has horror elements, and they end up coming into the play and into the atmosphere as well. But yeah, I don't. When I look back, I don't think that we were ever really talking about horror game at all.
That's interesting. Do you remember a version of the game that didn't end up being Alan Wake, but do you remember which was closer to what you guys wanted, but you still had to change? Do you remember that version of Alan Wake, which was I'm assuming was different than what it is right now?
Yeah, I mean, even when we decided that it's Alan Wake and we started making this game, we started creating a free roaming open world game.
Wow.
And that's what the engine was, and that's what the tools are, and you can I think, like, even if we abandoned that direction after a lot of hard work and struggle and frustration, I think it ended up contributing to the feeling of the experience, because we did build the world, and even if it's linear and we take you through it, there is a map. And the landscape is actually there, and there are kind of like vistas where you can see quite far, which wouldn't probably be the case if we would have just started creating a linear experience. So it kind of stays there as part of the atmosphere and believability of the world. But yeah, we started making an open world game. Looked for solutions for a long time. I wrote many versions of the story to try to support where the gameplay was going. But also I felt sad along the way, because it just felt that for us to make this work, it kind of is pushing it further and further into supernatural, meaning that we were losing the idea of idyllic, present day world. It started to feel like, well, some sort of a supernatural catastrophe has happened, and we are in a kind of in that way, a post-apocalyptical setting that everybody knows, and everybody is barricaded in their houses, and they have generators running with lights, and it started to go into that direction, and it felt that we are losing a big part of the, the charm of what makes Alan Wake ultimately what it is. But we couldn't figure out the way to solve things, and it felt like we are too small of a team to really kind of populate this world and build all of that content. So ultimately we came together and decided that we need to pivot and find another direction, and made it more linear at that point. And I remember I felt like I can now go much closer to the original story idea that we started and ended up drifting away. And sometimes these projects, and quite often they are long and winding roads, and a lot of frustration and hard work along the way before it comes together.
Yeah, that is true. I think making video games, I have no idea how all of you guys are able to do it in a way that for us gamers who play it, they're like, oh, this is perfect. But for you, it took a long time to figure everything out and build it together before you even brought in the actors and start working with them. And then after that, to mix it all together, and then to package it in a well way and optimize it, which is also something that is very hard to do. So it's incredible that you and the entire team is able to do something like this without letting us know, like, oh, we had to work on all these years, by the way, and crying and getting frustrated.
I mean, I'm very aware that kind of like next year, 25. Remedy will be 30 years, and it's a long time, and it's pretty exceptional as well. If you think about video game companies being around for that long, that there is a lot of hard work involved, and for sure luck as well. I feel being fortunate and being able to keep on going.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you guys did with Alan Wake was something that is very unique. I don't remember any other games have been doing it. It is because you brought in Ilka to play as the physical actor took his likeness as Alan Wake, but you had Matthew do the voice. Why was that decision taken at the time to do it in that certain way?
I think it's just the history of how games have been made. Like if we go all the way back to, 90s and Max Payne era, I really feel that we were among the first who started using real life people as models for the characters.
Yeah.
Like a lot up to that point, it was essentially just creating the characters, the looks of the characters, as you would in a, say, animated film.
Yeah.
And then bringing in voice actors to perform the lines. We ended up kind of like using real life models, but at that point, we didn't really even consider that hey, what if this person is one and the same? That the history was somehow
okay, yeah,
how it's been done so strong, and even like I felt when I saw finally what Rockstar did with Max Payne 3, namely bringing James in as the character, the whole character. I was going like, why, what? I mean, Timothy Gibbs did a marvelous job as the physical actor of Max Payne in Max Payne 2, but I still went like, we didn't even stop to consider that James could do the whole thing, and so we were very much mentally in this place when we started working on Alan Wake. And thus kind of like for the physical actor, we were looking close by, and Ilkka is brilliant and a really good friend and a wonderful actor, and really, really feel lucky that we found him when we were casting here. But then we just kept going the same way as we had done with Max Payne. So we reached out to Navid in New York, and we started doing casting sessions with New York-based actors for all the voice roles. And some of them are already like same actors who had been in roles for Max Payne. So that was how we just thought that this is done. And it was only for us, it was only Quantum Break. Where we put a lot of effort internally also into the whole engine of character creation and kind of like all the animations and everything, aiming for digital doubles, which was partly also motivated with the idea that there's going to be a TV show as part of the experience, and we'll have the same actors. So we really, really need to push the technology to get to the point where they are comparable in a good way.
Yeah.
And so that was where that mental shift happened. But at the same time, now coming to Alan Wake 2, there was never any kind of a question that we would want to change anything when it comes to Alan Wake's character.
Of course.
Like Ilkka is wonderful. He did a wonderful job. I knew that we could go way further, and Matt as well. And honestly, like through the years of doing bits and pieces, American Nightmare, and then in Control DLC, AWE, and obviously, like, because we were trying to get Alan Wake 2 started, there were all kinds of prototypes done, bringing both of them in and off through the years. So there was no question about it. Even though, of course, these days, having one actor perform and do it, it's simpler actually. Yeah. Like there are less steps in the process.
Yeah.
Like for me as physical actor of Casey, and James as the voice, and Ilkka and Matt, there are extra steps in this, like how to make it happen.
Yeah.
It's like, we had instances where Matt was providing reference voice for Ilkka to listen and internalize, because they both wanted to have it as seamless as possible. Mm-hmm. Then Ilkka doing motion capture, delivering the lines, but also like keeping Matt's delivery in his mind. Then Matt got that material, was looking at it and did his delivery for the VO. And then Ilkka went into performance capture booth and lip synced and performed like his facial expressions to Matt's lines. And then we had the whole package. And I did the same, when it comes to Casey. And it's a lot of work, a lot of effort put into making it as seamless as possible.
Wow. And it's so much effort, and you guys did so brilliantly, and the whole team helped out in such a brilliant way. It feels seamless. But I understand why that decision was taken at the same time. And because nowadays those doesn't happen, where it's the actor, he's the character, he's the voice, everything is him, and everything is recorded in that way. But it's really cool that we still get to have that. It's really good. I feel like that you still decided to keep Ilkka as Alan, because for me, he is Alan. For me, Matt is also Alan. So it's just how it is. I just like, that's how it's always going to be. So it's wonderful that you guys continue to do that. But it's even cooler because I think in Control is where we sort of started seeing some connections to, there is a universe of characters. There is, Alan Wake is a part. What? So it was mind blowing. And then people started thinking Max Payne might be in, Quantum Break might be in, so all these things. Was that a plan that started with Control, or was that always the thing that you wanted to have before it?
Yeah, I mean, Easter eggs have kind of always been a thing in games. Mm-hmm. And that was just something that was done, like nods and winks to different directions and small, jokey things often. And like working on Max Payne way back when, it already started to feel to me that this is kind of an opportunity. It's kind of meta, but there is an opportunity to do similar kinds of things and get more out of them and build them in more. And so it's been there in some form. And then just kind of like, I love that meta layer. And when we went to Alan Wake, because there was a lot of kind of creative frustration along the way and how hard it was. And Alan Wake is a creator. And so I just felt that there is something in this process that we are making that I could draw from and put into the fiction. So in some ways, to me, Alan Wake kind of is Remedy. And this idea of like, he was writing hardboiled fiction. He got a lot of success, but then he wanted to do something else. And Remedy got a lot of success with Max Payne, but we then kind of stepped away from that and wanted to do something else. So there is a kind of a metaphor going on there. So it felt like we can tap into this, that okay, it's like he has written this hardboiled detective because Remedy made, Max Payne games. They are not one and the same, but there is just this kind of like echo to make you see that there is kind of a play going on here. And then in Quantum Break, Quantum Break has always been, we created it for Microsoft and it's their IP. But we talked about it and they agreed to allow us to put our own stuff in so that we would retain. Yeah. And so it felt like, well, we could have a bit of Alan Wake here. It would be fun. We had been trying to make the sequel and I had some loose, vague ideas. And I was saying that, well, we could just do kind of a trailer of these ideas, put them in and have it be in this world. And the whole chalkboard there, like at the university about, almost like, one of the literature lectures at the university, like studying, like this would be what the board would end up looking.
Yeah.
So having fun with that and thinking about that already back then. But Control was the first opportunity then that we were trying to make Alan Wake 2 with Mikael Kasurinen, who is the game director of Control. And we did a new concept and that didn't end up going forward. So then we started working on the idea of Control. And excuse me. And because we had just been working on a concept of Alan Wake, we kind of had Alan Wake as an element in Control.
Yeah.
And once we had worked for a bit, we felt like, no, it's too big and too strong, and people will think of this as a sequel to Alan Wake in some way. And we don't want that. We want to create a new franchise, Control. So we kind of hid it in that okay, we don't say anything about this, but when people explore, they will discover that the events of Alan Wake did happen in the same universe. And that felt like a fun way to do it. And then when it's out in the open and not a secret anymore, then in DLC we can lean in and do a bigger crossover event. And already at that point, Alan Wake 2 was in the making, and we were making the remastered version of the original game.
Yeah.
So it was like I was writing the Alan Wake content into the AWE DLC, thinking that, well, Alan Wake 2 is going to be about this. We'll just set it up here and kind of do the kind of a bit of a, the alarm that goes off, that AWE Altered World event happening at Cauldron Lake sometime in the undefined future. And then you go into those early missions at Cauldron Lake in Alan Wake 2, and there is the monitoring station, and just the same alarm starts to blare when it's fixed. So it just felt like, I love connected universes. I love how say Stephen King has little knots and wings in his different books, kind of a universe, and in Dark Tower, obviously in a bigger form, kind of like building it. That there are many different examples, like Marvel Cinematic Universe, obviously being a huge one, and it just gives you so much material, to look at, and what could I do with this, or what could we do with this, and maybe we connect it to this. Obviously, it's important to make that approachable and not too like you have to have played all of these to be able to play this. That's not what we want to do with it. But we want to like have all of those people who love it and come back, that there is some extra things for them.
Yeah. Wow. That is so good to hear that, because at least I have not seen that kind of level, unless it's a sequel of a game. Obviously, there's connected dots. But if there is no such connected dots between a studio that has made different kinds of game, and there are Easter eggs here and there, but there's not such connection. Like, okay, in this game, we're gonna actually set the other game, which has never happened. So it's just like very cool to see. And as you said, like Marvel has done it, and it's just the movies have done it. The games have never done it. So when it happens in games, it just blows my mind, like, no way, this is cool. And so there's so many conspiracy theories. I remember when Control with the Alan Wake's DLC, so many conspiracy theories, and everybody was like losing their minds, like, no way, a connected universe. It sounds crazy. So thank you for doing that. That is just amazing.
Well, thank you for enjoying it. I feel that games are really, really suitable for this.
Yes.
Because we are creating a world to be explored, and you always need a lot of content then to explore and discover and find and piece together. And somehow having this whole fictional history of a universe and characters on different tracks and kind of like a history of stories that allows you, going back to the idea of Easter eggs, that allows you to do something bigger and more meaningful, even if it's still optional.
Yeah,
in many ways, but it gives you kind of like something more fundamental and bigger in a way.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just been a joy, right, to be in this ride. And I'm excited to see what's happening in the future. But, I remember 10 years ago, it was before you guys even, before Quantum Break was announced. I was thinking it was at the time when Quantum Break was announced, is when you mentioned how Alan Wake 2 cannot happen because of budgets, and it's obvious reasons. Budgeting is important and it could not happen. But there's this new thing called Quantum Break that we'll be working on. But you still wanted to work on Alan Wake 2, still wanted to concept, still wanted to work on it. And it's so cool because I would go back. I recently went back to that to see that 10 years ago, he said it's not possible. 10 years later, now it is out. Now you guys did it, and you did it in such a big way. And I remember I talked to Ilka, and he was mentioning how Alan Wake 2 in some ways needed those 13 years to build in a way that it did, because the game looks, I think, the best it looked ever from Remedy visually. It looks incredible. I just loved everything about the visual aspect of the game, the sound effects, the transitions, the jump scares, that is just brilliant to me. All of these overlapping videos in some ways where you see overlapped with the game cutscene, there's an overlap character. All of that is just such a brilliant ideas that you guys were able to come up with. What do you think about this insane 13 years journey of making of Alan Wake 2?
Well, if there is a learning, don't give up on your dreams.
Absolutely.
Alan Wake, I mean, I love all of our games. I'm really proud of everything that we have done, but somehow already back then, Alan Wake felt special to me and close to my heart. And leaving the poor guy in the dark place. It was always a plan to come back and continue the story. So it just felt that I wanted to keep on trying. We were looking for a way, and it took a long time, but also something that I've said is that all of those different versions of the game, looking back, none of them come even close to the concept and vision of Alan Wake 2 and what we achieved. So I'm really happy it took that long, and I'm really happy that we didn't get to make any of those early ones. I mean, I'm sure that they would all have been satisfying sequels, but somehow I feel that what we got here, and taking all the learnings from along the way, from Quantum Break, from Control, and building on those, it just ended up being something else, and something very kind of I feel a clear step forward in our thinking of what can we do in a game. At Remedy. So I'm really happy it took that long, but I'm also really happy that we didn't abandon the idea and the dream of we'll find a way.
Yeah, you definitely guys just find a way, and it's such a great way. For me, Alan Wake 2, and it's so weird because every time I play a new game from Remedy, it becomes my favorite. And so Alan Wake 2 right now is my favorite game, and it's something that has blown my mind with everything that you guys have done. And I know with Alan Wake 2, we had a new character, Saga Anderson. Why was it important to have another character in a game when it's about Alan Wake, and why at the time, why wouldn't you just keep Alan Wake in Alan Wake 2 only, and why was it important to bring another character in?
Yeah, it to me on the story side, this idea of duality, and kind of two sides of the experience just kept on growing stronger and stronger, and we had different versions of this when in our concepts, but as a starting point, this kind of a setup of even inside our character, even inside Alan Wake, these two sides and light and darkness, and expanding on this idea of doubles and two worlds, the dark place and Washington State, and more and more it felt like this is kind of two side-by-side stories connected. So it was calling for another character, and then I also felt that because it's been such a long time, we need to kind of find a way to bring new people into this experience who have maybe not played it or played it years and years ago and don't really remember it. And also, like, it just felt that there is no way out of the idea that Alan Wake is still trapped in the dark place, and that already kind of drops you quite deep into our crazy supernatural lore.
Yeah.
That it felt like it's too much for, to start the experience. And we need to kind of like find a way to come into this world not knowing anything and start learning. And all of that then kind of like started pointing towards an idea of another character, somebody who comes in and start investigating, somebody who can be, a strong hero, to save him essentially in many ways.
Yeah.
And all of these ideas then led us to Saga Anderson, who is a professional investigator, and has kind of like the professional experience to start piecing this mystery together. And that really kind of was the setup for Saga's character in this.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah, I loved because initially I think when the trailer came out and we got to know that Saga is a new character we get to play, I was wondering how will it stay connected? How is it going to start? All these questions happen. Will we start with Alan, or are we going to start with Saga? And I already thought, like, if it's Alan Wake 2 and if Saga is supposed, because I thought Saga is supposed to be the one that kind of helps Alan Wake, so we must be starting with Saga. And we must be exploring her story first, and then we go to Alan Wake. And I thought it was brilliant. I really enjoyed everything, and Melanie was amazing as Saga.
Wonderful actor. Yes.
What was your experience like working with her as Saga Anderson?
Well, she's great, and kind of like how we approach all of our characters, and more along the way. Working with Hannah Price, who is our performance director, and like we were working with Hannah already in Control, and how we started kind of approaching it when we had actors coming in, we would always kind of talk about the character and kind of do this workshop with them in the beginning. Just kind of like, not everything is really kind of like set to stone, like personality and bits and pieces of the background. There is room to explore, and Hannah's method has always been that let's involve the actor, which I really, really love, and we sit down and start talking about the character and really make it the actor's version of it. And so this is what we did with Mel as well, started talking about it and exploring ideas of her backstory and likes and dislikes, and then we have the early shoots, and working with an actor, you discover a lot of things also, like, okay, that really, really resonated even stronger than we imagined when we wrote the line. Or then some other bits is like, okay, that's not really kind of like, we are not finding this part. So, and because Game Project is such a long project, we are writing more and more material along the way. But that allows you, okay, let's lean into these things that are really working well. So you get to kind of like, together also shape the character. And that to me is kind of if you can do it, is an essential way of really building a believable character with the actor in question. And this is what we did with Mel. And I feel we together we found Saga really kind of like along the way.
Yeah. Have you ever felt this way where you are interested in doing something, but you just don't know how to do it yet? And your friends keep on recommending YouTube videos after YouTube videos to watch and hopefully learn. Well, if you want to learn from the best and at your own pace, then Skillshare has got you covered. Skillshare has thousands of hand-on classes that you can watch whenever you want and learn creative skills to achieve your goals. Whether it's UI UX design, photography, video editing, graphic designs, and even marketing, you can learn all of this with the industry's best. You can click the link in the description below and get 1 month free of Skillshare. And now let's just jump back into the episode. And with that, like Alex Casey comes in and you played Casey. What it was so cool to see you, and it's amazing how Casey is also an FBI agent with Saga, but in Alan Wake's dark world, he is a little not exactly the Alex Casey that we saw with Saga, and he felt like more Max Payne. Was that kind of direction to be with when it comes to we seeing Alex Casey from Alan's point of view or Alan's world? Was that always the kind of the plan of like, let's make him a little bit sort of like Max, not exactly him, but sort of like that, and go with that direction?
Yeah, it's really kind of like, I love film noir. I love hard-boiled fiction.
Yeah.
And that's why Max Payne is what it is. And this felt like an opportunity to go back to those inspirations and kind of like come back to it all these years later and build Alex Casey's character out of these ideas. And so spoilers, I guess is fine at this point, but the idea being that we do discover that you know, for Alan Wake writing fiction, he's been having these visions that he hasn't even understood are visions from real life. Just these kind of like ideas, really, and he takes them and shapes them and puts them in his stories. So there is an echo of our real life Alex Casey that he has molded into his kind of like hard-boiled detective Alex Casey, which is like just turning the knobs more and exaggerating and going more into that, you know, hard-boiled inspirations in that character. So it was important that this like dark place, it's his fictional character coming to life, and whereas we have this actual FBI agent in Washington with Saga, who does have similarities and potential of like being pushed into that direction, but not quite, and more, you know, more three-dimensional kind of a real person with real person's worries and all of that. So it's part of the whole idea. Like in Dark Place, everything is kind of pushed and exaggerated and stylized kind of further. But felt like a really, really fun element to play around with. And allowed me to go back to like, I get to write more hard-boiled, you know, narration.
It was so cool because I remember the very first time we get to see Casey in a live action was, or you in live action, was when he's sitting beside Alan, and he has no idea that Alex Casey is right beside me. And David mentions about you, and you do the Max Payne face. And it was wonderful. I'm like, no way. This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And so, I remember when I talked to Ilka, he at least believed that there was supposed to be sort of less live action elements in the game. How did that amount of how many live action scenes we can have, did that change over time? Was there a specific thing that you were developing that changed that, okay, we should have more of it?
I mean, it came from multiple directions. Like there always was a plan that you know, want to break a huge amount, but we were kind of struggling to find a way and make it all click into place. We dialed it back quite a lot for Control, but we were experimenting a lot with the idea of like blending it on top of the game footage with trench, like phone call visions but also like just like running our own live action productions, like all the Darling videos, you know, doing all of that and having a ton of fun with that. And already then we had Anssi Määttä, who is our live action director and cinematic director, who is wonderful director and really, really great collaborator. Like I love working on the set with Anssi and planning it all, and also our cinematographer Mikko Riikonen, and that was just such a joyful experience with Control that I felt that like we'll do more, and we were discovering things with those blended videos, kind of like layering them in, discovering things on how we should do the lighting to make it like blend in even more. And so there were a lot of learnings and idea of like, let's do all kinds of visions, like Saga's profiling and Wake's visions of inspiration. And so we were doing a ton of that and ideas of like just TVs in there. But then we were also like struggling with the amount of cutscenes in the game, like from the production perspective, and finding solutions on like what should we do? How do we get this? Like, should we outsource more, or should we build our cinematic team into a bigger team to kind of like get all of this? And meanwhile, I was thinking that live action is working just so well. And then at some point it just dawned on me that the Dark Place experience is meant to be Alan kind of like stumbling through different layers of this reality, kind of out of control. And how do we kind of communicate that to the player? And then it just clicked that like live action, we should do more live action and have these screens in the world that suck you in, and then you are in this scene and he's in this scene and he's confused, and we just watch it, and then he's put it out at the other end, like lights flickering, and then he's suddenly in the game, and it just felt like, okay, now it feels like there is an idea of how to make this seamless, because it's always a crisis of some sort to switch mediums in an experience, and there is a danger of, you know, whoever is playing or watching is kind of like, what is this? I don't like this. So, but now it felt like now we have an idea, and then we were shooting and like building around this idea. And yeah, it was such a wonderful experience, like in big part because of Anssi, I feel. But I loved every second of it, like creating that and being there to direct it with him, and going all practical and old-fashioned, like actually having a studio and building all the sets to one to what we have in the game, and yeah, it was such a great time, and I love it, and I'm so happy we did it, and you know, went overboard as we do. Like I remember relatively early on there was a meeting with Anssi and Mikko, and I came to the room and I was saying, like, I'm thinking we will have this movie theater, and because we have Tom saying the filmmaker in this, we should do his work, and we'll have a full-length feature film in this. And I remember the panic in their eyes. They were like, this guy is just completely insane. And then we were actually like thinking about it and bouncing it around, and it ended up being the short film, which still seems to have taken people by surprise and going like, what, there is an actual film in here? But I'm so happy we did it, and it was a really, really marvelous experience for me acting in it and getting to do it and going through the whole kind of process of creating something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what you just said. Something that surprised a lot of people. There were so many surprising moments in the game, and that was one of them, with the movie being in a theater, which I unfortunately got spoiled by at one point. I'm like, okay, there's somebody's standing. I saw a YouTube thumbnail, somebody's standing in the theater and something is playing. I'm like, is that a movie? And so when I start watching it, and it was like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, and it was like, I was just glued to the screen, and I was like, I wish there was a way where we could just sit in the theater, some seat we could take and just literally sit and just watch the whole thing. But it was
Yeah.
so incredible that you guys did that with Finnish language and did it in such a beautiful way. I was like, no way we are watching a movie in a game, watch front row tickets free of cost. It was wonderful. It's just something that we'll always remember. I'll always remember. And I was like, okay, only in Remedy this can happen.
Yeah,
Absolutely crazy.
it's that there is something really interesting in the thing. Like I remember when we were making Quantum Break, and there was a lot of worry about the complexity of the story, and a lot of worry about kind of like, you know, making sure that everybody understands, and it just felt like that we, like, the whole industry and kind of trends tend to be this pendulum swing, and at that point, it was like, let's hold the player's hand and take them through this experience. And afterwards, we were talking with Mikael Kasurinen, that we want to go the other way and more kind of like, let's not explain it. Let's make it fragmented. People need to kind of like actively pursue the mystery and put these fragments together and come up with, like, what are they actually experiencing? And that to me worked really, really well. So there is some sort of a kind of like interesting psychological thing happening, that when you force some content to the players, they tend to want to have the skip button. Like, like I just want. But when you kind of half hide it and make it totally optional and you can miss it, then it's suddenly a treasure to be found. And a secret you discover, and people are like, I want this, and I want to experience this. And that was the idea with the film, that you don't have to watch it. You can just go by. It's not a requirement for anything, but if you do, there are obviously a lot of these twisted mirrors and echoes, which is the theme of the whole thing. For more food for thought and more theories to form around. And it seems to have worked really, really nicely.
Absolutely. Very, very nicely. Something very, it's very cool. I love that, your thought process, and that now that you said it, now it makes sense. Like, okay, this is exactly why it worked, and why the people who watched the whole thing love it, and some people missed it, and I was like, how did people miss it? So I was like, for me at least, I was just blown away that people missed it at the same time. So it works for both type of players. And
it's fine. I think that games, by their nature, being interactive, and you are supposed to have, as a player, enough control to kind of like make choices, and it's fine to miss some content. Like we shouldn't be too worried about it, because that makes it, actually, it brings more to it and makes it more interesting and evokes conversation and thinking and I think that's games as a medium. That's the kind of magic that they have. It makes it more real. If you can miss something or not find it at all.
Exactly. I think that was a surprise, and obviously the biggest surprise that everybody just was blown away was the musical, which is something that no one expected. It's amazing that there's a 13-minute version of it as well, which is mind-blowing. And so preparing that, having that dance, having Matthew and David sing, having Alan or Ilka dance as well, you dancing, David dancing, and then, which was mind-blowing, something in the game, we get to see the screens and get to interact. And I remember every time is the moment when you go to the first TV, everybody thought, oh my God, it's ending, no way. And then it just continues from there, and then it continues again, and it just went on, and nobody complained in some ways. Like, I want more. And after that, I remember they put out the video of 9 minutes, and then everybody was like, Game Awards is coming. They gotta be there. They have to be there. I was like, there are a lot of people that you have to riot if that doesn't happen. And then you guys did perform in front of the live audience. And I remember the one point I always remember is the screen comes to you It was the last moment of the dance. It's right,
Oh.
camera is right on top of you. And you had the best smile in the entire world. Everybody was just talking about just that moment of how everybody is so happy that Sam not only got to include a musical in the game, got to perform in front of the live audience. It's just brilliant. So good. How did all that happen? How that experience was for you?
Oh, yeah, that's so I remember at Slush Music, I think it was 2016 or something. We did this crazy talking about the songs and music with wonderful Petri Alanko, who is kind of our core composer here, like brilliant scores and soundtrack music, and more recently Ahti songs, kind of that we've made together. We were on the stage and we did this slow jam session of going through all of our games up to that point, Quantum Break being the latest, and talking about the music and inspiration and songs and all. And at the end of that slow jam presentation, I said that, one day I hope I get to fulfill my dream of making a game that's also a musical. and because like already thinking about these ideas, and we obviously had Take Control in Control, but I was trying to make a musical sequence for that also.
Oh, wow.
But it got scoped out. Like there was so many ideas and so much things, so it didn't fit in. And I was like, next time, next game. And that's one of these things that I do think that ultimately how the context of it in the dark place, this fever dream to begin with, and the talk show setting and all of these, it was a much better setting than what the ideas were for Control back in the day. So once again, a happy thing, not giving up. But there will be a time in the future when these will click into place and it will be even better than you dreamed about it in the first place. And so all of that, we started planning. I was talking with Marco and poets, figuring it out. Like this should be about like if it's the talk show, it's back and forth between Dor as the host and Alan Wake as a guest, and okay, then we'll have Old Gods of Asgard as the studio band, and kind of the chorus, and this is the structure, the idea. Like we were talking about the inspirations. I remember mentioning Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. Like let's just make it dramatic and all kinds of parts in it. We had learned a lot from Take Control about the idea of a dynamic song that can have different parts that keep on going longer depending on how the player progresses. And because this is a talk show and he's the guest, it's about him and it's about his life. So we'll have 1, his childhood, 2, him as a celebrity writer rising to fame and having his fall, 3, the story of Alan Wake 1, and 4, his current situation trapped in the dark place. And that's the song. Like, and I was giving some lines, like how we work is like, I give a chunk of story, part 1, 2, 3, 4, and some kind of like loose poetry kind of thing that could it say something like this? Could it say something like this? Wow. And Marco, who is a very masterful, writer of lyrics, like takes that and kind of like does his thing and makes it greater.
Wow.
So that was that part, and it was running on its own. Then separately we started thinking like, how do we make this into a mission in the game, and many different ideas, and because we were at that point leaning more into the live action, and because talk show is in live action, that became just a natural element. That can we have it like we'll just shoot kind of like music video style from that talk show studio or in the screenplays, like these different segments and parts, and we'll populate the world and you go through it. So a lot of work. It's not our usual pipeline. There were times along the way where this mission is falling behind in production because it's more steps and there were the inevitable discussions. So like, can we just cut this, please? Like, could we just kind of like not do this? We're like, no, we are doing this. We must do this now. And then ultimately, through Anssi, we got into contact with Sofia Ruija, who is a wonderful dancer and choreographer here in Finland, and got her involved that we need a dance. we need to kind of like show all these different parts as if it was a musical. So we need a choreography, and for reference, what I wanted her to look at was the title sequence of Peacemaker, the TV show, which had kind of goofy, clumsy dancing, like it should be something like this. And the other thing was the kind of the calibration moves of a motion capture session, where you go like T-pose, move your hands, like all of these steps, and that as a video to her, that something like this, and Ilkka will be dancing. He's not a dancer, he's an amateur. I will be dancing. I'm not a dancer. I'm an amateur. It needs to be something that we can learn. And also, like I was saying, like I really hope that this is something that the fans can learn and do their, social media videos of it.
Wow.
And then she provided it, and it was brilliant. And I was absolutely despairing the first weekend getting the videos and trying to learn it. And I was like, I'm never going to learn this. But like repetition. And then have to say, like Jeff Keighley, it's because of him that we were at Game Awards. He contacted us. He wanted it. We were like, we don't think that this can be done. But then we were talking and finding a way, and ultimately that then happened. And it's wonderful. I would never in my life have imagined performing a dance number live on stage, streaming to 118 million people across the world, once in a lifetime. Really, really happy that we did it. Like, it was a lot of fun, all through the way.
All through the way. It was a lot of fun. I listened to that song so many times. I've shared that song to the people who have never played games. And like, this was in a game, by the way. And they were blown away by like, how? I'm like, it's games? So it's just like one of those things that no one ever expected. And it's something that will always stop. It's like, I remember now Oscars had the Ken song and performed live. We had in the Game Awards, Herald of Darkness performed live.
We were there first. Yes.
Yeah, you guys were the first. And it's so cool that it's definitely Oscars got inspired by the games. But like, it's so cool that we got to have that moment, and I will always remember it forever. So thank you for even deciding that, for giving us that.
Thank you.
It was a brilliant choice. Something that now I feel like now people will be expecting in the next games to have more of these.
Oh, yeah. I like that's. I just did my final pickup mocap session and recording for the upcoming DLC. From my part, it's a wrap for me performing as an actor in this, and like DLC is being made as we speak here. But I'm gonna go on a bit of a break now. Like it's been so intense for a number of years. And it feels like now is the right time to just kind of like take it easy and also recharge and find new inspirations for the future. So far, it feels like this musical thing we've been able to. I have no idea. We'll think about it. Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely understand that. You would need that recharging time. And you spoke about DLC, and I know that nothing you can talk about it. But what can we expect, if anything, that you can say from the DLC that is hopefully coming out sometime soon?
Well, the first one is called Night Springs. And especially if you play through the New Game Plus version of the game, we have some Night Springs related videos. So That's already out there.
Mm-hmm.
When the chapter songs of the game came out, there is also one track that's not in the game called Night Springs.
Oh, okay.
I would say that there is already plenty to look into and speculate. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay.
Wow. And the other DLC is called The Lake House.
Mm-hmm.
And with the FBC presence in the main game, there is talk about the Lake House being the FBC research station by Cauldron Lake. So
got it.
That's all I'm gonna say. But I think that there is kind of logical things already to be found related to this.
I understand. I am super excited for DLC. Cannot wait to get to experience that game. The DLC, the stories. A lot of people are waiting for it, and I know you guys have worked. The team has worked to make even the PC version of the game even more optimizable, and now people with a kind of lower end graphics can play it as well. So yeah, at the end, I think you guys have done such a phenomenal job. You deserve that break that you mentioned, and you have worked so well. The team has worked so well. Everybody has worked so well. People have loved this game, and it continues to surprise people who come by to that game for the first time, and continues to make them go crazy. So thank you for all of that, and thank you for making all the game the way it is. Thank you for continuing doing something brand new, taking risks. As I know, I talked to David, and he was mentioning how Remedy is the one who knows how to take risks and just willing to go into that. So thank you for taking those risks and continue taking it, because that's what makes these games special.
Thank you very much.
I do have some fan questions. I'm not so sure if you're willing to. Are you willing to?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Phoenix 2211 asks, was there something you learned by being an actor in Alan Wake 2 that might affect how you approach writing going forward?
Yeah, for sure. I loved acting. I do enjoy it a lot. I felt really fortunate to be able to work as an actor with these really talented professional actors with a lot of experience, and everybody in the process was so welcoming and supportive. That feeling of like doing this together was wonderful. Anssi is a great director, and Ilkka ended up being kind of a mentor to me a bit, because the first things we did, I was struggling a lot, and I was like, I can't do this. Like it's, and he gave me a number of wonderful advice, and afterwards, kind of like processing that and taking that in, it was so much better, and so I'm really grateful for Ilkka about that. I feel I did learn a ton about directing and writing through acting. Like needing to act the stuff that I had written together with Clay Murphy, and yeah, so made me think about things like, you know, building an emotional arc inside a scene for a character, and how difficult it is to kind of like switch an emotion and even a couple of times, which is, it is enough to write.
Yeah.
But when you have to be there and being aware of like how that flows and how much room you need to kind of build something, like, you know, these ideas in my head, like next time I'll sit and write about it. Very valuable learnings for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm excited to see what happens next. Slasher 105 asks, will you ever be able to work with Hideo Kojima beyond just a simple cameo?
Well, we did like I mean, in Control,
yes.
we did work together, kind of, or, you know, both ways. Like I had the awesome honor of giving my likeness to one of the NPCs in Death Stranding.
Yes.
And he did a wonderful work for one of those side missions that we had in Control, like with his voice. And yeah, that was fun, and that came to be when he came to visit Remedy, and we sat down and we were chatting, and kind of out of that, we were bouncing around ideas and messages. Who knows? Like nothing planned, but it certainly was a great joy and a lot of fun doing even this small collaboration together.
Yeah, I would love if that happens. I think a lot of people have said if that happens, that will break the gaming industry in the best way possible. It's you guys have just like some similar thought processes and some risk-taking moves. So it kind of
he's wonderful visionary for sure.
Absolutely. Hello, Lily Kitty asks, how long does it take to go from an idea to a complete story in reference to Alan Wake 2 and Control?
13 years. It is a lot of work, and sometimes the ideas come faster, and sometimes it takes like thinking and iteration. And when you need to get there faster, I feel that being able to collaborate with people on the same wavelength is hugely valuable. Well, like in Alan Wake 2, I brought in Tyler Burton-Smith, who was part of the Remedy team writing Quantum Break, and he's been working on film and TV. But I wanted help from him for certain aspects of Alan Wake 2 story, where I was kind of like, not figuring it out. I know I want something like this. So we had a couple of week-long workshops with him and found the solutions. And also like the whole screenplay for this was written together with Clay Murphy here. Like we sat in the same room for months. We had a big TV, with Final Draft on, and we were sitting in front of it, and we were just writing together the whole screenplay line by line, like fleshing it out. Like, let's go back a couple of pages and actually let's put this here. And, every day coming to work for months, sitting in that room, like really close collaboration. And that made it the fastest, I think, in some ways, for this big of a thing. So, collaboration certainly helps, but these are massive things. Like I would compare the screenplay of Alan Wake 2 to 2 full seasons of a TV show, more or less. So it is a big monumental task of many months of writing.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like so much work that goes into this. It's incredible how you guys managed to figure it out in the end. The charming TIO has a question where, have you or the narrative team ever took inspirations from the community and their theory and crafted it into story elements or put it into Easter eggs?
I really, really appreciate and value our community and the fans. And when I see some of these kind of like YouTube videos of going through different aspects of it and digging deep and forming a theory, I value it so much. It's absolutely wonderful. Like, thank you. But the fan community overall is such a brilliant, wonderful community we have. Like all the gorgeous fan art and cosplay and everything, really. Like it's so wonderful, so valuable. I would say that often it comes after the fact, that we already have, or we are working on something, and then we see a theory and we go like, they are actually quite close. Being surprised. Yeah, we put in some hints and kind of like hidden things, and they almost got what we are building. And that's always kind of a positive surprise. Like making me feel good about it. I don't really can't think of an example where it would have worked, or like let's take this and put it in, because like it's so involved and so big, the planning phase of like connecting things, it doesn't necessarily give you an opportunity of like, oh, that's a good idea, let's change something, because you are kind of committed and quite deep into it. But it is fun to see those theories and go like, like this is impressive, because we thought that we had hidden this quite well and a lot of blank spaces around it, and yet there is somebody kind of like thinking on the same wavelength.
Yeah. Wow. That is insane. Yeah, the community is insane. I have no idea how they have big brains. So if I have to say something, I guess it's amazing, and to see how much they are
impressive and really, really welcome. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Jenny has a question about what mechanisms do you use to combat writer's block?
I mean, obviously we used it as such a huge plot device for Alan Wake 1.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I have ever really, in such a way, I mean, almost supernatural way, how it's presented in Alan Wake, experienced that. I mean, it's very natural to end up in a situation of, I don't quite know how to solve this. I don't quite know how to do it. But like your subconscious mind, when you are actively working on a story, and you have, and this is the work you do for years and years, you kind of have trained your mind to find these solutions.
Yeah.
And it's funny how it works, that often those solutions come when you are not pushing, that you've been struggling, and then you are doing something completely different, and suddenly it's like, okay, now I know.
Yeah.
And then like I need to write it down before I forget, because even if you think that you have a brilliant idea and you're really experienced, excited about it, you forget.
Yes.
Like it's like late in the evening, being too tired, and you go like, oh, that's such a great idea. Okay, I'll remember it in the morning, and then you wake up and you go like, I had an idea. I have no clue what the idea was. So many ideas are lost like that. So having notebook is essential. But I don't like it's almost like this idea that I have, this mental picture, and I think somebody has like said it in a very eloquent way, is that just kind of like, leaning against this problem, not pushing hard, because you'll get frustrated and you don't find the solution. Just leaning your mind kind of gently against this problem, coming back to it and thinking about it, doing other things, and it will come to you. It always comes to you. Like I feel that ideas, you will never run out of ideas if you're working on ideas and coming up with ideas. There will be always more. There will always, a solution will present itself.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's very well said. Yeah, it happens all the time. Marissa has a question. Which story of a video game has inspired you the most?
I'm in awe, and I'm so happy with how our whole medium has evolved through the years, like how storytelling has evolved through the years, like how wonderful, talented professionals on storytelling are working on video games these days. Like the bar keeps rising, which is wonderful, because you want to kind of learn and be better, and stay with it. So that's important. Like there are so many great stories and great story games. Like I'm barely 1 foot in Baldur's Gate now. like waiting for my break. It's coming, and then I can actually play video games other than Alan Wake 2, which has been kind of taking all of my time. Disco Elysium was one thing that I did enjoy quite a lot. Such a strong, world and style and idea around it. But the Immortality from Sam Barlow, I loved it because I love live action as well as an element. There is a ton.
Yeah, there is a ton, and I'm a big fan of narrative games. So I love every style, And so it's really incredible to see how different styles of games have different styles of narrative and different way of showing them. And it's so inspiring to see like, oh, this is cool. This story
games
exists.
like because there is no one set way.
Yes.
And that's a richness, and many different things work and can be explored and pushed forward in an ambitious way. I feel we haven't seen anything yet. Like I think that the whole whole medium is evolving, and I want to be kind of excited and optimistic about it.
Absolutely. Well, in the end, I would just want to say thank you so much for taking the time today, talking with me about everything Remedy, everything about you, about Alan Wake 2. Thank you so much for giving me that time, and sorry for taking even longer. But I appreciate that, and thank you so much for, again, being the guest that I never thought was possible.
Thank you. This was a joy. Yeah.
Yes.
Enjoyed it a lot.